Ladies and gentlemen, lean in and listen carefully, because what I'm about to share with you could shift the entire trajectory of your life. Here's the truth. You were not born to live in mediocrity. You were not designed to just pay bills and die. You were created in the image of a God who spoke the universe into existence with words. And if you have the power to speak, you have the power to create. The title of this message is simple but life-altering. Create the life you dream of. Most people underestimate the cost of dreaming too small. They set their sights on goals that are safe, comfortable, and within easy reach, and then they wonder why life feels ordinary, predictable, and uninspiring. The reality is you were never designed to settle for a life that doesn't challenge you, stretch you, and ignite something deep inside of you. The truth is, people don't usually fail because they dreamed too big and fell short. They fail because they dreamed too small and actually hit the target. Playing it safe may keep you from disappointment, but it will also keep you from destiny. Think about it this way. If the dream you have doesn't scare you a little bit, it isn't really a dream. It's just a to-do list. Safe goals don't awaken your creativity. They don't require your faith, and they don't call on the best version of who you are. But when you set a dream that feels bigger than your current resources, bigger than your current connections, and bigger than your current skill set, suddenly you have no choice but to grow into the person who can achieve it. That's the secret. The dream is never just about what you achieve, it's about who you become in the process. You see, the danger of dreaming small is not just that you live beneath your potential, but that you start to believe mediocrity is all you deserve. You trade your divine purpose for convenience. You convince yourself that good enough is good enough, but deep down, something inside of you knows that you were made for more. That inner voice keeps whispering, there's more for you. There's a bigger life, a greater calling, a higher level waiting. And if you ignore that voice long enough, you don't just lose your dream, you lose your passion. Here's the hook. Life has a way of giving back exactly what you demand from it. If you ask life for pennies, it will give you pennies. If you ask life for abundance, it will give you abundance. The size of your dream sets the size of your reward. Dreaming big is not arrogance. It's agreement with your potential. It's you saying, I refuse to limit myself to what's comfortable because comfort never created greatness. When you study the lives of the most successful people, you'll notice a pattern. Every single one of them had a dream so massive that other people thought they were crazy. They were told it was impossible. They were laughed at, doubted, criticized, and warned to lower their expectations. But they refused to settle. They understood that if people don't think your dream is unrealistic, then it's probably not big enough. And here's the beautiful part. A big dream creates momentum. It pulls you forward when motivation is low. It pushes you to learn skills you never thought you'd need, to meet people you never thought you'd meet, and to attempt things you never thought you could accomplish. A dream that's too small will bore you, but a dream that's big will energize you. It will wake you up in the morning and keep you going when everything in you wants to quit. So let me ask you directly, are you aiming high enough? Are you setting goals that truly excite you, or are you settling for what feels safe? Because the difference between living a life of impact and living a life of regret often comes down to the size of the dream you're willing to chase. Stop shrinking your vision to match your circumstances and start stretching your faith to match your vision. Big dreams don't require you to have all the answers in advance. They require you to believe that the answers will come as you move forward. The truth is, there is no glory in settling for less than you're capable of. You don't inspire people by playing small. You inspire them by showing what's possible when you dare to dream beyond limitations. Dreaming big doesn't just change your life. It gives permission for others to dream bigger too. That's why it's not just about you, it's about the generations that will follow you, the people who will be impacted by your courage and the legacy you'll leave behind. So if you're going to dream, dream big. Because whether you hit the mark or not, you will be transformed by the journey. And in the end, the only real failure is not missing the target. It's never aiming high enough in the first place. The greatest shift you can ever make in your life is not external. It is internal. Long before success shows up in your bank account, your relationships, or your lifestyle, it must first be established in your mindset. That's because your life is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the thoughts you've been entertaining. If you don't like the results you see, it's not because life is unfair. It's because your thinking hasn't yet aligned with the results you want. That's the hard truth most people ignore. But here's the hook. If you can change your thoughts, you can change your life. Because everything you are experiencing today is the harvest of the seeds you've been planting in your mind. When you believe something is possible, your brain begins searching for ways to make it happen. But when you convince yourself that something is out of reach, your brain shuts down and stops looking for solutions. This is why wealthy people and struggling people can face the same problem but respond differently. The wealthy ask, "How can I make this work?" While the struggling ask, "Why doesn't this work for me?" That small shift in thought creates massive differences in outcomes. The way you think about money, opportunities, and even yourself determines what you attract and what you repel. Your mindset is the filter through which you interpret everything. Two people can walk into the same room, see the same opportunity, and walk away with completely different experiences. One walks away with transformation, the other with excuses. Why? Because one has trained their mind to look for possibility, while the other has trained their mind to look for obstacles. The mind is like a thermostat. If you set it low, you'll always lie below your potential because your actions will subconsciously adjust to keep you there. But if you raise that setting, if you condition your thoughts to align with abundance, excellence, and growth, your entire life will rise to match it. This is why poverty is not first a lack of money. It is a lack of mindset. You can give someone with a poverty mindset $1 million, and before long, they'll lose it because their thoughts are programmed to sabotage wealth. On the other hand, you can take someone with a wealth mindset, strip them of everything, and they'll rebuild because their thoughts are programmed to create value. The difference is never in the resources, it's always in the resourcefulness. That's the reason why changing your outer world without first renewing your inner world never produces lasting results. And here's what most people don't realize: your thoughts are not random. They are shaped by what you feed your mind every single day. If you consume negativity, scarcity, and fear, your life will reflect those seeds. But if you feed your mind wisdom, faith, and possibility, your life will begin to expand in ways that feel almost supernatural. That's why the greatest investment you can ever make is not in stocks, real estate, or business. It's in transforming your thinking. Because once your thoughts expand, Your results have no choice but to follow. Every great achievement began with a thought. Every invention, every company, every movement, every transformation, someone first thought it was possible, even when others laughed. Your thoughts are literally previews of the future you are creating. If you think small, you'll live small. If you think fear, you'll live fear. But if you dare to think abundance, if you dare to think victory, if you dare to think possibility, you'll find doors opening that you never even knew existed. So here's the challenge. Stop letting your mind be a parking lot for doubt and start making it a workshop for destiny. Stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start asking, what if it does? Every time you choose a thought of faith over a thought of fear, you are rewriting your future. The most powerful tool God ever gave you is your mind, because when you change your thoughts, you don't just change what's in your head, you change what's in your hands. Money is not mysterious, it is mathematical. It does not show up by accident, and it does not disappear by coincidence. It always follows value. The reason most people struggle financially is not because they aren't working hard, but because they haven't learned the principle that money doesn't chase effort, it chases value. You can work yourself to the bone and still be broke. But when you understand how to create value that solves problems for other people, you unlock the flow of wealth into your life. That's the hook. Money is nothing more than a certificate of performance, a receipt that says you delivered something valuable to someone else. Think about it. Every dollar in your pocket represents a solution you either created or consumed. When you pay for food, you are paying for the farmer's labor, the distributor's logistics, the chef's skill. When you pay for a phone, you are paying for the engineer's knowledge, the designer's creativity, the manufacturer's precision. Money always moves toward value because people will gladly exchange their resources to get their problems solved or their desires fulfilled. This means the fastest way to increase your income is not to work longer hours, but to increase the level of value you bring to the marketplace. Here's where most people miss it. They ask, how can I make more money? That's the wrong question. The right question is, how can I solve a bigger problem for more people in less time? That's how wealth is built. The size of the problem you solve determines the size of the paycheck you receive. If you solve small problems, you get small rewards. If you solve big problems, the marketplace rewards you with big income. And when you start thinking like this, you realize that money is unlimited because problems are unlimited. As long as there are needs in the world, there will always be opportunities to create value. Consider this: a janitor and a surgeon both work hard, but the surgeon gets paid significantly more. Why? Not because one works harder, but because one solves a problem that has greater perceived value in the marketplace. The janitor solves the problem of cleanliness, which is important, but the surgeon solves the problem of saving lives, which carries a higher economic value. This is not about fairness. It's about understanding how value is measured. If you want to elevate your income, elevate the level of problems you are willing and able to solve. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to be born into wealth to create wealth. You don't need to win the lottery, and you don't need luck. You just need to develop the mindset and skills that allow you to bring value at a higher level. That might mean learning a new skill, deepening your expertise, or innovating solutions that others have overlooked. It might mean serving more people through systems, technology, or scaling your business. The possibilities are endless. but they all come back to one principle. Value is the magnet that pulls money into your life. So let me challenge you. What value are you currently offering, and at what level? Are you solving a problem that only a few people care about, or are you solving a problem that impacts hundreds, thousands, or millions? Because the income gap you are experiencing is nothing more than a value gap. The moment you increase the value you deliver, you increase the financial rewards you receive. It's not magic, it's mechanics. The truth is, when you stop chasing money and start chasing value, money starts chasing you. People will seek you out, opportunities will open, and wealth will flow, not because you got lucky, but because you became valuable. And the more valuable you become, the more impact you make, the more influence you carry, and the more income you create. Value is not just the pathway to wealth. It is the foundation of legacy. Dreams are beautiful, but without discipline, they remain nothing more than fantasies. People love to talk about what they want, where they plan to go, and what they intend to accomplish, but very few are willing to embrace the daily grind that transforms intention into manifestation. The truth is, consistency beats talent every single time. You can be the most gifted person in the room, but if you lack discipline, your potential will evaporate into wasted opportunities. On the other hand, someone with average ability but relentless discipline will rise higher and achieve more simply because they show up day after day and do what needs to be done. That's the hook. Your dream is only as strong as the discipline you're willing to back it up with. When people hear the word discipline, they often think of restriction, punishment, or limitation. But real discipline is not about taking away freedom. It is about creating it. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's the habit of saying yes to your future and no to distractions in the present. Every time you choose discipline, you are voting in favor of the person you are becoming. Every skipped excuse, every completed task, every consistent action is a deposit in the account of your destiny. The reason most dreams die is not because people lack inspiration, but because they lack structure. Inspiration will get you started, but discipline is what keeps you going when the excitement wears off. Think about it. It's easy to be motivated on day one. It's easy to be enthusiastic when the vision is fresh and the possibilities feel endless. But on day 50, when no one is clapping, when results are still small, when obstacles feel overwhelming, that is when discipline separates the dreamers from the doers. Discipline is not glamorous. It rarely gets applause. Nobody cheers when you wake up early, when you put in the extra hours, when you choose to study instead of scrolling, when you say no to instant gratification for the sake of long-term success. But those are the unseen moments that build the visible results people admire later. What looks like overnight success is really the product of years of disciplined choices stacked on top of each other. Here's the reality: your dream will test you. It will require sacrifices. It will ask you to give up comfort in exchange for calling. And in those moments, discipline will be your greatest ally. Discipline whispers, keep going, when everything in you wants to quit. Discipline says, stay focused, when distractions try to pull you off course. Discipline reminds you of the vision when your emotions forget. Without discipline, your dream remains a wish. With discipline, your dream becomes inevitable. Think about the greatest athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, and creators. Talent may have introduced them to the game, but discipline kept them in it. Michael Jordan didn't just rely on natural ability. He practiced more shots than anyone else. Steve Jobs didn't just have ideas, he had the discipline to refine, test, and execute those ideas until they reshaped entire industries. Discipline is the invisible ingredient behind every visible success story. And here's the hook: you can't ignore a discipline compounds. The small, consistent actions you take today may not look like much, but over time they build unstoppable momentum. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't feel like much, but over a year, it's thousands of pages and a new level of wisdom. Saving a small percentage of your income doesn't feel like much, but over years it builds wealth and freedom. Working out for 30 minutes may not show results tomorrow, but over time it transforms your health. Discipline multiplies in ways that motivation never can. So the real question is not whether you have a dream. The real question is whether you're willing to be disciplined enough to make that dream real. Because discipline is the proof of desire. If you truly want something, your actions will reveal it. And if you are consistent long enough, you'll look back and realize that discipline turned the invisible vision in your mind into the visible reality in your life. Fear and faith cannot occupy the same space at the same time, and yet every single day you are making decisions from one of these two forces. Fear whispers. What if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? Faith declares, what if it does work? What if you succeed? What if you inspire someone else? The reality is simple. Fear limits you, but faith liberates you. And the life you dream of will never be created if you allow fear to be the loudest voice in the room. That's the hook. The size of your life will always be determined by the size of your faith, not the size of your fear. Fear is natural, but it is also deceptive. It exaggerates risk and minimizes possibility. Fear tricks you into believing that the pain of trying is greater than the pain of regret, when in reality the opposite is true. People don't get to the end of their lives regretting the things they tried and failed at. They regret the things they never had the courage to attempt. Fear robs you twice, once by stopping you from moving forward, and again by leaving you with the haunting thought of what could have been. Faith works differently. Faith doesn't deny reality, it just refuses to be limited by it. Faith looks at obstacles and sees opportunities. Faith acknowledges risk, but chooses to trust that the reward is worth it. Faith doesn't require you to see the whole staircase. It just asks you to take the next step. And every time you choose faith over fear, you expand your capacity, you grow in strength, and you get closer to the life you've been envisioning. Think about this. Fear is rooted in the unknown, but so is faith. The difference is in perspective. Fear sees the unknown as danger. Faith sees the unknown as possibility. Fear says, stay where it's safe. Faith says, step into what's next. Fear paralyzes, faith mobilizes. And whichever one you choose will shape not just your decisions, but your destiny. Every breakthrough admirer in someone else's life came because they chose faith over fear. The entrepreneur who left a steady job to build something extraordinary felt fear, but they moved anyway. The speaker who stood on stage for the first time heard the voice of fear telling them they weren't good enough, but they opened their mouth anyway. The inventor who launched an idea the world wasn't ready for still pressed forward with faith. The difference between history makers and those who remain in the shadows is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of it. And here's what's powerful. Once you start practicing faith, fear begins to lose its grip. The more steps you take forward, the smaller fear becomes. Fear thrives in inaction. It grows when you stand still. But the moment you move, The moment you step out, fear gets weaker. That's why the most dangerous thing you can do is nothing, because in doing nothing, fear gains strength. Faith, on the other hand, compounds like interest. One step of faith creates momentum for the next. Each time you act boldly, you build a track record with yourself that says, I can do this. I can face uncertainty. I can overcome. And soon faith becomes your default setting, not fear. Suddenly, what once looked impossible becomes inevitable, not because the circumstances changed, but because your belief system did. So ask yourself, what opportunities have you missed because of fear? What dreams have you delayed because you were waiting to feel ready? You may never feel completely ready, but that's exactly why faith is required. Faith is the bridge between your current limitations and your future possibilities. And when you walk across that bridge, the life you dream of is no longer just a picture in your mind. It becomes a reality in your hands. The distance between where you are right now and the life you dream of is not measured in years. It is measured in decisions. Every single day, you are either deciding to move closer to your vision or drifting further away from it. The problem is not that people don't know what to do. The problem is that they don't decide and commit. They linger in hesitation, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the fear to disappear, waiting for the stars to align. But here's the hook. Indecision is still a decision, and it usually leads to regret. Nothing changes until you decide. Nothing grows until you commit. Decision is powerful because it eliminates alternatives. When you truly decide, you cut off every other option and lock in on one path. That level of focus creates energy, clarity, and momentum. But too many people live their lives halfway in and halfway out, dabbling in their dreams instead of dedicating themselves to them. And the danger of dabbling is that it feels like progress when in reality it is procrastination disguised as activity. You're busy, but not moving forward. You're interested, but not invested. The breakthrough doesn't come to those who are interested. It comes to those who are committed. Commitment is the proof of desire. If you say you want something, but your actions don't align with it, you haven't decided yet. A dream without commitment is just entertainment. You can talk about it, visualize it, even get excited about it, but until you make the decision to pursue it relentlessly, it will never materialize. Commitment means you burn the boats. You close the back doors. You stop giving yourself permission to quit. It's the moment you say, this is not just what I want, it's who I am, and I will not stop until it manifests. Think about how many people stay stuck because they are waiting for certainty before they act. They say, once I know it will work, then I'll commit. But life doesn't work that way. Certainty comes after commitment, not before. You don't get the guarantee up front. You create the guarantee through persistence, learning, and adaptation. Every successful person you admire had to step into the unknown with no assurance other than their own decision. The decision itself is what created the conditions for success. And here's what makes decision and commitment so transformative. They build identity. Every time you decide and follow through, you are shaping who you are. You are training yourself to believe that when you say you'll do something, you actually will. That self-trust is priceless because it creates unstoppable confidence. On the other hand, when you keep hesitating or quitting, you weaken your own self-belief. You start to doubt yourself, and that doubt becomes a prison. The only way to break free is to make a new decision and commit to it fully, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. Commitment is not about emotion, it is about principle. You won't always feel motivated, but commitment says, I show up whether I feel like it or not. You won't always see immediate results, but commitment says, I keep going until the results come. You won't always have support, but commitment says, I will keep building even if I'm building alone. That's the kind of grit that turns average people into leaders and dreamers, into achievers. So let me challenge you. What decision have you been putting off? What area of your life have you been stuck in limbo, knowing what you should do, but refusing to commit? Because the life you want will not come from half-hearted attempts. It will come when you draw a line in the sand and say, enough is enough. Today I decide. Today I commit. And when you do, everything shifts, doors open, energy rises, momentum builds. Not because the universe suddenly changed, but because you did.